Hi everyone, welcome back to art. Last week when I saw you, we colored in our spider webs with the primary colors. This week we're going to use the primary colors again. Can you remember what those three primary colors are? Red, yellow, and blue. This week, instead of coloring with the primary colors, we're going to be cutting and gluing from primary color paper to make a collage. A collage is an artwork where things are glued down onto a new surface or a new paper. The inspiration for our collage is going to come from an artist named Pete Mondrian. This is an example of one of Pete Mondrian's paintings. This one is called Broadway, Boogie, Woogie. Look closely. Can you tell what colors he used? Can you see what shapes he used and what kind of lines? I can see straight lines, and then last week I learned that straight lines that go up and down like this are called vertical. Lines that go side to side like this are called horizontal, and lines that go corner to corner are called diagonal. Now when I look at his artwork, I see up and down vertical lines, I see side to side horizontal lines, but I don't see any diagonal. He chose not to use those. Then I also see squares and rectangles for the shapes he chose, and I see that he used the primary colors red, yellow, and blue. And there's some white, but that might have been just the white of his paper. Alright, now this collage that Pete Mondrian made is meant to show kind of like a map. If you were to go up in the sky, maybe in an airplane, and then look down at a busy street, this is supposed to show what you might see, or a simple version of that. If I were to fly up in the sky and look down, I would see the street, I might see cars in the street, I might see buildings and houses next to the street. So if I look at his artwork, I can see those long yellow lines are probably the street or the road. The little squares on the road might be cars, or people on bikes, or just people moving on the sidewalk walking. The big squares next to those yellow lines are probably the houses and buildings and schools that might be next to the road. So, for our artwork today, we're going to be making a map too, using the primary color paper red, yellow, and blue. Now, as you can see, I only have red and yellow. I'm all out of blue paper. But I'm going to show you what you can do to make your own blue paper, just in case you are missing a color like I am. Or maybe you're missing all three colors. You could do this with all three colors. I'm also going to use this white paper. This is where I'm going to glue my shapes that I cut out onto. And, of course, I'm going to need glue to do that. And I'm going to need scissors. So the first step is to make sure you have red, yellow, and blue paper. If you don't, you can take a piece of white paper and just color it, or color some of it, with a blue marker, blue crayon, blue color pencil, whatever you have. So I'm going to start by doing that first so that I have all three of the primary colors. Alright, I started by just coloring this much blue, and then if I need more, I can always color more, but I think this might be enough for the blue for me. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut some straight lines to be my roads. Or if you'd like to kind of get creative with it, you could cut a different kind of line for your road. Maybe you want to do a wavy line road or a zigzag line road. It's okay if it doesn't look like our roads outside because you can use your imagination when you make this artwork. I'm going to do straight lines for my roads because they're just a little bit easier to cut. So to cut my straight line roads, I'm going to hold my paper with one hand, and with my other hand I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut a straight line coming up. And then what falls off I can use as my road. Now I'm going to want more of a road than just that, so I'm going to cut a few more here. Alright, I've cut all these yellow strips that are going to be my road in my collage. So I am ready to glue them down now. Now I get to pick where I want my roads to go, so I will glue them where I think it looks best. Since it's just a tiny little piece of paper, I don't need much glue, so I'm just going to put dot, dot, not a lot. 3 tiny little dots on there. If I put too much glue, my paper might slide around. All right, I'm going to glue all these roads down, and I'll show you when I'm done. Okay, I am done gluing the roads on my paper. I kind of like this design I made. Sometimes I like to pretend my finger is a car, and I could see where could my car drive if this was a road or a street. So I could drive here. My car could either turn or my car could keep going straight. My car could go around the block right here. My car could drive down, my car could keep going off the paper, or my car could go this way. So my car has a lot of choices because I had a lot of different lines to be roads going in different directions. All right, the next thing I'm going to add are little squares or little shapes, you can choose the shape, that are on my road so that they could be cars or they could be people walking. Now, if I had a little yellow square, and I put it on a yellow road, are you going to be able to really see it? No, it's going to blend in. It's going to just look like it's part of the road because it's the exact same color. So when I add my cars or my people walking, I'm going to just use the other 2 colors that my road is not. So I'm going to use red and blue. If your road is red, you would not use red squares for cars. You would use blue and yellow. So just use the colors that you didn't already use. Now for your cars and people, you can do any shape you want. Pete Mondrian used squares. I'm going to show you how to cut squares or rectangles because I think they are the easiest shape to cut. But if you already have a little bit more practice using scissors, you could cut shapes like circles or diamonds, triangles, hearts, stars, whatever shapes you wanted. I am going to stick with rectangles and squares for today. So one easy way to cut a lot of squares at once is to start by cutting a straight line coming up, kind of like how we cut our roads before. And then I'm going to just cut little lines and see what's falling off of my paper, little squares. So now I have all these little squares that I'm ready to glue. I can put just 1 dot of glue on these. That's probably all they will need. And then I can decide where do I want these red squares to go. So where do I want there to be cars and where do I want there to be people on my roads. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing with my blue paper to add a few more cars. All right, I think that's all the cars and people I want in my roads for now. Now I want to add the things that are next to my road. So when you're driving down the road, picture all the different types of buildings you see. You might see schools, hospitals, stores, a shopping mall, maybe a movie theater, a post office, lots of different places. So I'm going to be cutting squares and rectangles again to show these buildings. Just like before, if you're comfortable with cutting other shapes, you could cut other shapes too. Now here is a quick way to cut larger squares or rectangles. Since my paper is already a rectangle, I'm just going to cut a straight line up. See how it's separated there? And then I'm going to cut a straight line over, and did you see what just fell out? A large rectangle. Now I can put glue on the back of this. I'm just going to put 1 dot in each corner and then 1 little dot in the middle. And I'm going to find a space that I think that building could go. Now maybe I'll cut a building that is a red rectangle. I'll find a space that I think it will fit. Go right there. And glue it down. Another thing I like to do is overlap some of my shapes. Overlapping is when something is on front of or on top of something else. So I might do a yellow rectangle that goes, a little smaller, that goes on top of my red rectangle. So this could be like if the building had a different kind of roof right there, or maybe the building had something on the roof, or just a nice decoration for the roof. So I'm going to keep adding squares and rectangles next to my roads so that I can show all the different buildings. All right, I think I'm all done adding squares and rectangles, my shapes, all over my paper in the primary colors to show roads, to show cars or people on the roads, to show buildings next to the road. And I have some things that are overlapping or on top of each other too, like this blue rectangle on top of this red rectangle. So now it's your turn to make your artwork. As a reminder, we're just using the primary colors red, yellow, and blue. And then the paper you glue them to could be white, black, gray, any different color that you have. I cut all straight lines and squares and rectangles for mine because that's the easiest to cut, I think. If you have practice cutting and you want to do some wavy lines or some different shapes, that's fine too. But I am looking for the primary colors, red, yellow, blue, all three. I don't want to see extra colors on there except your background paper. I'm looking to see, do you have something to show roads? Do you have something on your road? It can be any shape. Do you have shapes to look like buildings next to your road with some overlapping or shapes on top of other shapes? When you're done, you can show me a video or a picture of your artwork on Schoology.